In section 2.2, we will be adding integers. We have one vocabulary word in this section, and it is additive inverse. An additive inverse is simply the opposite of a number. In example 1, we will use a number line to find the sum. A is 4 plus a negative 9. When we start an addition problem, we will always start at 0. We will take the first number, which is 4, and we will move 4 units to the right, because 4 was positive. So we start at 0, and we move 4 units right. We end at 4. Then, since it's plus a negative 9, we will move 9 units to the left, because it was negative. So from here, 9 units left will bring us to this point right here, which is negative 5. So 4 plus a negative 9 is equal to a negative 5. In B, we have negative 7 plus 8. Again, we start at 0. This time our first number is negative, so we're going to move 7 units to the left. And then, since we add a positive 8, we will move 8 units to the right. Which will end us right here, which is a positive 1. So negative 7 plus 8 is 1. And finally, in C, the problem we are doing is negative 5 plus a negative 2. We again start at 0. We're going to move 5 units to the left for the negative 5. So we start at 0. Move 5 units left. But now we're adding a negative 2. So we have to move 2 units still to the left, which leaves us right here, which is negative 7. So negative 5 plus negative 2 is negative 7. When you get to a guided practice section, pause the recording, try the problems out on your own, and then hit play to review your answers. So for number 1, it's 11 plus a negative 6. So you're going to start at 0, and you're going to move right 11 spaces for the positive 11. And then, since it's plus a negative 6, you're going to move left 6 places, which will end you at 5. In number 2, negative 10 plus 3, you start by moving 10 spaces to the left, and then you're adding 3, so you move 3 spaces to the right, which will leave you at a negative 7. For number 3, start at 0, it's negative 4 plus negative 8. You move 4 spaces to the left, but then you have to move an additional 8 spaces to the left, which leaves you at a negative 12. And finally, for number 4, you're doing 1 plus a negative 1, so you start at 0, move 1 space left, or right, sorry, you move 1 space right, and then you move 1 space left, and that puts you right back at 0. In example 2, you will add integers without using a number line, but you can use a number line to check yourself. So we're finding the sum of negative 14 plus 5. Well, negative 14 plus 5 is going to leave us with a negative 9. The rule that we'll learn is that when the two numbers that you're adding have different signs, you want to subtract the absolute value of 5 from the absolute value of negative 14, which is 14 minus 5. and then the sign that it takes is the one that had the greater value. The number that had the greater value was 14, and it was negative. So we'll use a negative sign. To check ourselves with a number line, we start at 0. We move 14 spaces to the left, and then we move 5 spaces to the right, and it leaves us at negative 9. The additive inverse property tells us that the sum of an integer and 0 is the integer. So anytime you add 0 to something, you will get that same number. So 3 plus 0 is 3. Negative 7 plus 0 is negative 7, or a plus 0 is a. In example 3, we will add more than 2 integers. We want to use the left to right rule of order of operations to find the sum, meaning we're going to add the first 2 numbers before we add that third number. So in this problem, we have negative 56 plus 0 plus negative 164. We're going to start with the negative 56 plus 0. That's the additive inverse property. That will leave you with a negative 56. And then we do negative 56 plus a negative 164. You're adding 2 numbers that have the same sign. You simply add the numbers together, which is 220. But since they are both negative, your sign will be negative in the answer. For B, we're doing negative 39 plus negative 62 plus 76. Again, we're going to use our left to right rule. Negative 39 plus a negative 62, they have the same sign, so you add the numbers together. That's 101. But since they're both negative, that's going to be a negative 101. When you're adding 2 numbers, negative 101 plus 76, that have different signs. One is negative and one is positive. You subtract the numbers. 101 minus 76, that gives you a 25. You're going to give this one, though, a negative sign, a negative 25, because the 101 is larger and it had a negative sign with it. In example 4, we will add more than 2 integers again. This one is in word problem format. You are starting a bank account, and the table shows the deposits and withdrawals of the account during the first month. How much money is in the account at the end of the month? Positive numbers indicate a deposit, negative numbers indicate withdrawal. You basically want to just add this entire list together. It's going to look like this. 675 plus negative 80 plus negative 25 plus 168 plus negative 40. You need to do 2 at a time. So 675 plus a negative 80. You're going to end up subtracting those numbers. It's going to give you 595, and it's going to be positive because 675 is larger than 80, and 675 is positive. Then you'll add 595 and a negative 25. Again, different signs, so you subtract them. That will leave you with 570. Again, 595 is larger and it's positive, so 570 is positive. This is a simple addition problem. 570 plus 168 will give you 738. And our last one, 738 plus a negative 40. You end up subtracting them because they are opposite signs, which will leave you at 698. And 738 is positive, so your answer is positive. So to answer the question, there is $698 in the account at the end of the first month. And for our last section of guided practice problems, we are going to find the sum. For number 5, they both have a negative sign, so you add the 2 numbers together. 28 plus 12 is 40. And since they were both negative, the answer is negative. For number 6, we need to add 2 at a time. 19 plus 0, that's 19, plus a negative 51. They have opposite signs. 19 is positive and 51 is negative, so you end up subtracting them. 51 minus 19 is 32. 51 is the larger number and it's negative, so your answer will be negative. For number 7, we're going to add our first two numbers together. 310 plus 123 will give you 433 plus a negative 68 plus a negative 365. To put those together, 433 minus 68. We subtract the two numbers. We get 367. Or sorry, 365. Because 13 minus 8 is 5. Plus a negative 365. Well, they're opposite signs, so you subtract them. 365 minus 365 is 0. Zeros do not have a positive or negative sign. And for number 8, when I add my first two together, I get 756, and it's going to be negative because both of those signs were negative, plus 193 plus 113. Negative 756 plus 193, they have different signs, so you would want to subtract them, which is 563. It's going to be negative. 756 was larger than 193, and it had a negative sign with it. And then we add 113 to that, opposite sign, so we need to subtract them, and that will give me 450. And the answer is going to be negative because 563 was bigger than 113. And that concludes section 2.2.